right, y'all. So the MAGA bandwagon effect is still in full swing. It drives me crazy, but day in and day out, more and more are hopping on it. So we just talked before about the comedian sphere who've all gone full MAGA because they're pathetic little weasels and they are not independent free thinkers. They're not anti-establishment. They are wave riders. They are narrative humpers. Well, now you also have the Bill Maher sphere doing the same thing. All right, they are doing the same thing. They're going, where's culture at? Where's society? What direction is the wind blowing? I'm going that way. I'm going that way. You guys like me, right? You guys like me, right? You guys like me, right? It's so sad. It's so weak. This is what weak men.
Why would you think that Bill Maher, who has a well-established liberal audience, benefit from going to the right, Kyle? Explain how that even makes even remote sense, bro.
Do, right? This is what weak men do. It is, right? And I used to like Maher. I used to love You're About to See Stephen A. Smith. I'm endlessly entertained by Stephen A. Smith. I always enjoy his commentary. But man, this is getting worse and worse on a daily basis with just how much they're humiliating themselves. And they're bending over and spreading their cheeks and saying, hey, MAGA, come get some. So here we go. Let's start and then I'll react.
Here's the deal. The man was impeached twice. He was convicted on 34 felony counts. And the American people still said, he's closer to normal than what we exactly left. That's what they say. He's closer to normal. Why? Because something that pertains, when you talk about the transgender community, for example, when you're talking about the issues that pertain to less than 1% of the population, the Democratic Party came across as if that was a priority more so than the other issues. And so he comes into office. Now you're talking about childbirth, citizenship, and what have you. He knows that's not going to pass the mustard.
Kamala Harris did not mention trans people or trans issues. She just didn't. She didn't mention it. Not once. They had to drag out a video from like fucking 2019 to try to...
They dragged out that video because it was an egregious, obvious, stupid thing that she said. She did talk about trans people during the campaign, but she didn't talk about it a whole lot. Kyle is just not correct about this. He's just fundamentally incorrect.
Hit her with that. And Stephen A. makes it seem like, oh, these Democrats, they won't shut up about trans issues. That's why Trump won. Just totally swallowing hook, line, and sinker.
It's not the amount that they talk about it, dingus. It's their position on it. There's a reason why Trump ran that ad. You know, Kamala Harris is for they, them. Donald Trump is for you. And there's a reason why that ad was so effective. It's because their position on trans people is just sheer lunacy.
The right-wing narrative, the fake, made-up right-wing narrative.
Example, when you're talking about the issues that pertain to less than 1% of the population, the Democratic Party came across as if that was a priority more so than the other issues.
How could they have come across like it was a priority when they didn't fucking mention it? Guys, this is what happens when
you're just wrong about that, Kyle. You're just wrong.
You have a steady media diet of right-wing bullshit. Stephen.
I mean, usually like what these people say, liberals will sit there and say, well, we only talk about the trans issue because you guys bring it up. And that is probably partly true, but the reason why it's brought up by a lot of boomer conservatives is that their position on it is so crazy, and it's very, very low-hanging fruit to just sit there and say, what do you think about trans women in sports? And then the liberal gives this non-answer, or they'll give a word salad answer, they'll give a political answer, or how many genders are there? Same thing. They'll give a crazy answer, and it's just very, very easy to humiliate them because they have terrible positions on that issue.
Stephen A. has been open about
I mean, all the liberal has to do is just disagree with the position that they have, but they can't do that.
In fact, he likes listening to Mark Levin and Sean Hannity. Priority when they didn't fucking mention it. Guys, this is what happens when you have a steady media diet of right-wing bullshit. Stephen A. has been open about the fact he likes listening to Mark Levin and Sean Hannity.
Wow, two boomer conservatives, who cares?
Well, this is what happens when you listen to them and they lie to you and they make you think that's reality.
He knows that's not going to pass the mustard, but he knows that he made that promise. So when he shows up week one on Capitol Hill, he says, this is what we're going to do through an executive order, even though it's going to be shot down through the courts and what have you. He's saying, I kept my promise. A lot of other things that he's going to point to that he's going to try to do, I kept my promise. Then you turn around and you look at the left and you say, what promises did you keep? Now, you might know the answer to that. I'm certainly not questioning your knowledge about that at all. What I'm saying is, what resonated with the voter? What voter out there can look at the Democratic Party at this moment in time and say, there's a voice for us, somebody that speaks for us, that goes up on Capitol Hill and fights the fights that we want them fighting on our behalf. They didn't do that. And that's why their behinds are home, and that man is back into the White House. And they want to sit up there and talk. You look at the networks right now, they're talking about him. Look at it. This is the latest. Look at him. Here he goes again. Well, you know what here he goes again means? He's doing what he said he was going to do.
Oh, is he? Oh, he's doing what he said he was going to do? Oh, is he? Remember when he said repeatedly he had absolutely nothing to do with Project 2025 and Project 2025 has some wacky ideas and he's not going to do it? And a time analysis has found nearly 2/3 of the executive actions Trump has issued mirror or partially mirror proposals from Project 2025.
So what? So what? What is that supposed to prove? I mean, firstly, partially mirror, what the fuck does that mean? And also, did he ever say that he disagreed with literally everything inside Project 2025? Like, obviously, there's going to be some overlap. It's like a 1,000-page document or whatever. Who cares?
In some ways, he's doing the exact opposite of what he said he was going to do. Make America great again. America first. America first. So why did he sign an executive order that raises drug prices on day one? Why did he sign an executive order that green lights corruption among his cabinet members on day one?
Yeah, the screw old people out of drugs and pro-corruption executive order signed Donald Trump. Yeah, there's probably a little bit more to that story, I would guess.
Why did he pardon 1,500 January 6 rioters and insurrectionists, including many of which were cop beaters, and one of them was a fredophile?
If one of them was a sex abuser, obviously I don't really care if that person doesn't get pardoned, but so what? So what? What about the other 1,499 who basically, most of whom did nothing wrong that day, committed minor crimes? Should they be in prison for years on end? Why? I mean, obviously, you know, the ones who assaulted police officers, I don't really have that much sympathy for them, but the other ones, you know, they should obviously have been let out a long time ago. They just basically committed vandalism, you know, stupid, you know, trespassing. I mean, these are not really like serious crimes.
Why? Is that what Americans voted for him for? Please, please.
Yes, Americans did vote for him to pardon the J6 protesters. Yep, that is correct.
Release the fredophiles.
Wow, it's one guy, Kyle. You found one guy.
Release the cop beaters. Release the guy who wore a sweatshirt that said Camp Auschwitz on it. Is that what Americans were clamoring for?
Yeah, wearing a t-shirt is a crime, guys. You should go to jail for wearing a t-shirt.
Or is that Trump keeping his word? Is that what it is? Just falling hook, line, and sinker for all the right-wing narratives. All the right-wing narratives.
Capitol Hill and fights the fights that we want them fighting on our behalf. They didn't do that. And that's why they're behind a home. And that man is back into the White House. And they want to sit up there and show you, look at the networks right now. They're talking about it. Look at it. This is the latest. Look at him. Here he goes again. Well, you know what here he goes again means? He's doing what he said he was going to do. He promised you he was going to do these things. And he walked into office week one, and that's exactly what he's doing. And he's saying, y'all do something about it. And when you try to do something about it, he's going to say, look at them now. Now they're concerned about these issues. Were they talking about that during the campaign? Hell no. That's really it.
I mean, look, this is just a rewriting of history. That's literally all it is. It's just a complete and utter rewriting of history. The idea that on the campaign trail, while Trump was talking about real issues and Kamala was talking about fake issues, it was Kamala who was running on a $6,000 child tax credit. Kamala was running on it. It was Kamala who said, we're going to ban price gouging for groceries.
Yeah, both things would have caused inflation and were stupid ideas, especially the price gouging thing. That was really stupid. Every economist came out and said that that was a disaster.
She was talking about actual serious issues. And she did not mention race, gender, trans people, pronouns, Latinx, cancel culture, political correctness. She repeatedly said she would represent all Americans.
Some of those things she did mention, and the other things that she didn't mention, yeah, that's called pandering and posturing, Kyle. You know, politicians aren't always honest. Wow, you know, newsflash.
On the issue of the border, she ran to the right, even though everybody now is pretending like she didn't at all. She talked about owning a gun, ran on freedom and patriotism.
She also talked about gun control, Kyle. Assault weapons bans, expanding background checks, red flag laws. Yeah, she talked about a lot of different things, dude.
Like, on certain issues, she did the thing that everybody says, oh, you should do that. She did it. And that didn't fucking work. That didn't work. And everybody just ignored this stuff on reducing medical debt and banning price gouging and the $6,000 child tax credit. And even,
I mean, those are relatively small things that people weren't as concerned with as they were concerned with the economy or with immigration or with crime or with whatever.
To his point about like, well, what about the promise of the Democrats? They didn't do anything. You want to compare record for record? Is that what you want to do? You want to talk about Trump's record versus the record of the Democrats? We can do that. We can have that conversation. I mean, part of the problem was that Biden was incapable of actually making any case whatsoever. So he never brought up, hey, I did student loan reduction and tried 3 different ways to get it through, even with the Supreme Court blocking me.
Well, that's in part because Kamala Harris did a coup and got him out of the race. But maybe he would have said those things if he had actually stayed in the race.
We did $1,400 stimulus checks. We pulled out of Afghanistan like we said we were going to do. We did project labor agreements for construction workers, which raises their pay. We overturned the Supreme Court when they tried to slap down the EPA from being able to regulate for the environment. We did $15 minimum wage for federal contractors and employees. That's like 400,000 workers. We funded Obamacare to the tune of $64 billion. We added 800,000 manufacturing jobs. We did the CHIPS Act. We did the Infrastructure Bill. We did the Inflation Reduction Act. We did the 15% corporate minimum tax rate. Yeah, part of the problem was he wasn't able to make...
Did any of those things make the economy better, Kyle? I mean, like, I'm just wondering, like, I mean, why is it... On one hand, you sit there and say, like, we accomplished all these amazing things, but the American people clearly saw the economy as not being that great, obviously. So, like, how can they both be true at the same time?
Those cases, because he's 1,000 years old. But Stephen A., this is where I flip it on you and I say, you're in the media, you want to get involved in political commentary, why are you not educating people on it? You have the ability to read about these things and learn about these things and talk about these things. And instead of going out there and telling people the truth, giving people the reality, he plays this game where he pretends like, bro, Trump is doing what he said and the Democrats are not doing what they said. And the Democrats are obsessed with trans issues and they run on that, even though they literally didn't run on that and they're not obsessed with it. And Kamala didn't even fucking mention it. I mean, this is hopping on the fucking bandwagon. That's what this is. Hopping on the MAGA bandwagon. Everybody, I love how even now in a scenario, we have...
It's really just changing your positions on things because you realize that what you were doing before was completely untenable. That's all it really is. I mean, if your platform just doesn't appeal to very many people, it's not that crazy to think that we need to relook at things and change some things. That's all it is. I mean, there's a reason why Harris lost, and it has to do with the fact that when you do bring up some of these issues, she looks really bad. I mean, Harris said that she wanted transgender inmates that were illegal immigrants in the California prison system to get bottom surgeries. Why the fuck would you say something like that? That's like that's something that somebody would say as a joke. But she said that sincerely, and she went and fought for that thing while she was Attorney General.
Republican House, Republican Senate, Republican presidency. They have the trifecta. They have total control. Trump broke the record on day one with executive orders. Like 98% of them, all bad. And people are still out there like, the fucking Democrats, bro. What will it take for you to focus on the people who actually have the power, who are actually doing the bad things right now, as we speak, right now? And the answer is there's nothing. Why? Because everybody going like this. Where's the cultural and political winds blowing? I'm with you, Americans. I'm with you, even though it's a misreading of the situation because Trump only won the popular vote by 1.4 percentage points.
This is just your deluded point of view here, Kyle. That's all this is. I mean, you're just delusional about it. I mean, obviously, again, the election was a landslide. It wasn't even close. Trump won the popular vote. Nobody was expecting him to win the popular vote, and he won it by several million votes. He didn't lose a single swing state, not one, and none of them were really even close. Maybe Wisconsin was kind of close. Yeah, Kyle, that's bad, and it does say something about your side of the political aisle.
And there was a number of polls that just came out, by the way, I should be clear about this, where like all of the main things Trump is doing, they were polled, all of them are unpopular, everyone. But no, why?
That just sounds absurd. That just sounds absolutely ridiculous.
Talk about that. When you can go back.
All of his positions are unpopular, but he just won an election and it was a landslide. Okay, sure, Kyle.
To the fucking well that never runs dry of no matter what happens, let's shit on the Democrats and shit on liberals and shit on leftists. But I'm not done.
I do enjoy those things.
So there's Stephen A. Smith's contribution. But now we're going to go to Bill Maher's.
Here's what's so interesting about this. The reaction from different generations. Older people think it's bad to shoot a guy in the street.
Talking about Luigi Mangione here and the far left.
He's correct. Yeah, he is correct. There is a divide between younger people and older people. I mean, you know, you could argue about how the insurance industry needs to be regulated more carefully or something like that. But to sit there and murder somebody in the street over it is absolutely fucking unacceptable. And young people, for some reason, just don't see it that way. It's fucking bizarre. It's just, I guess it's just brain rot or something.
Somewhat acceptable, where only 9% find it so extra. Which confirms something I wish wasn't true, but unfortunately is about, certainly not all, but too many Gen Zers. They're fucking stupid.
So this is his smug contribution to the political dialogue in this country after Donald Trump won the White House, Republicans won the House and the Senate, and Trump just broke the number of executive orders he signed in the first day. where 98% of them were horrifically terrible, like raising drug prices, pardoning 1,500.
This is just your opinion about it, though, dude. Like, obviously, people don't agree with you on it.
January 6th offenders, 45% of which were violent and committed felonies.
That's complete nonsense. 45% of them were not violent. Absolute bullshit.
Increased corruption for his cabinet in the White House. These are the executive orders he signed. This is Bill Maher's contribution. The week where he can and should be talking about what Trump is actually doing now that he has the power. This is his contribution. Isn't Gen Z fucking stupid? Aren't they stupid? Please, I'm Bill Maher. Okay.
He didn't say that in reference to the election, though. He said it in reference to this guy who murdered a health insurance executive in cold blood, and how they were rallying around him and defending him for premeditated murder. Yeah, dude, that is stupid.
I don't know what they're teaching them in college these days, but they all seem to have majored in simplicity. Oppressed and oppressor. No in between. Healthcare, good guys and bad guys. Simple. When Trump said nobody knew that healthcare could be so complicated, he was wrong. It's not complicated. It's simple. It's as simple as shooting your insurance agent. Bad guys get shot. Oh, wow, you never saw John Wick? Yeah, I'm thinking now maybe it wasn't a great idea to make every single movie about someone who's a hitman. And so here I am again, feeling like an old school liberal at odds with the new politics of the far left. Because
again, Republicans just got power across the government. Trump signing a bunch of horrific executive orders, things that Bill Maher would agree with if you take him at his word previously. And you say, the far left is so stupid, bro. They have nothing.
You're missing the point, Kyle. He's saying that if the left wasn't so fucking wacky and loony, that, Trump would have lost, and your side would be in power. Do you not understand how important, dude, it's kind of important to win the elections, Kyle. Holy fuck. Yeah, those are kind of important things to do. And if your platform is insane and it doesn't appeal to people, it turns people away, then you're going to lose the election, Kyle. Imagine how that works.
Zero power, zero cultural sway. Nothing. And that's what you're focusing on? The first week of Trump's time in office?
wasn't that long ago when liberals thought shooting people who don't share your politics was bad, or at least a microaggression.
Bill Maher is doing what I like to call here
boomer humor.
The cult of fake nuance. Where he's like, bro, you guys are saying healthcare is simple and you should just shoot the insurance executive. And I'm saying it's actually really complicated, bro, and that doesn't really solve it. Oh, really? That doesn't systemically fix our healthcare system to murk the health insurance exec? I didn't know that. We didn't know that. No, of course we fucking know that. Of course we know the nuts and the bolts and dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's is a very difficult thing. But the core of the point here is we have vicious mafia middlemen who are parasites and moochers, and they are robbing you. They are getting in between you and your doctor and taking their cut. That is a huge problem. Other developed countries don't have a mafia middleman. They don't have for-profit health insurance. They have the government is the single payer, the single insurer. So you pay taxes, that money goes to many things, but one of the things it goes towards is when you get sick, you get help, and that's the end of the conversation, and you don't get a fucking bill for it. So yes.
It kind of sounds like you are justifying the murder of the guy, to be honest, by making all these excuses for it. But again, like insurance companies and their profits are a drop in the bucket. There are other things that are more obvious that are larger problems in our healthcare system.
Yes, in some ways, it's a complicated conversation. In other ways, Bill, it's actually not so complicated. Not everything should be for fucking profit. And this is something you used
Bill Maher would agree with you on that. He just thinks that you shouldn't kill executives, and he doesn't like it when liberals defend that.
To know, and you used to talk about. Except now, after Republicans gain total control of the government, you want to come out here and shit on the far left.
Doesn't pumping someone full of lead verge dangerously close to mansplaining? And what about gun control? When Sarah Palin posted a map with crosshairs on the...
He's kind of right. I mean, Bill Maher's kind of right. I mean, like, liberals will complain about mansplaining, but they won't complain about Mangione murdering somebody in cold blood. It is kind of bizarre when you think about it.
Districts of House Democrats she hoped to defeat in 2010, liberals went nuts. But now, vigilantism is okay when it's someone you want dead? And where does all this lead? Both parties having death squads? So, Luigi, I say to you, good luck in prison, where being handsome always makes you popular.
Another boomer humor joke.
And congratulations on being a folk hero. But just know, you're not Robin Hood, you're not a hero, You're a typical member of your generation, too lazy to do the work to really understand an issue, but happy to pose as a social justice warrior for it.
Too lazy to do the work to
He's
understand
right. Yeah, I agree with him.
an issue. Says the guy whose take on Israel-Palestine is Palestinians are wrong, they're all Hamas, and Israel's right, and the genocide is good.
Are you at least paraphrasing that, Kyle? I don't think that's his position.
Please tell me more about how highfalutin you are and how great your mind works and how much you dove into all the aspects of all these issues. Bill, you're a joke. You're a hack. You are completely and utterly out of touch. And again, I want to reiterate this point. Republicans have the House,
That's just projecting. Kyle Kulinkski saying that someone else is out of touch.
the Senate, and the presidency. Trump just broke the record for executive orders. Virtually all of them bad. He's got nothing to say about it. His first monologue. The monologue is where he really gets to put out there what he's been thinking.
Yeah, but they were talking about why he won, stupid. Like, obviously, he's going to criticize his own side if his side lost. Yeah, you don't want to lose the election, Kyle. If your side loses, you have some retrospective thought involved. You sit there and you think about why that is, and you want to change to appeal to people to win in the future. That's what you would logically do in that situation, Kyle. Holy shit, it's not complicated.
Thinking about. He writes a whole monologue. It's about how horrible Luigi Mangione is and how stupid Gen Z is and how horrible the far left is.
The same mentality I saw this month when internet lowlifes posted about their glee in watching the well-off people of Pacific Palisades lose their homes in the LA fires.
You see what he's doing here? You see what he's doing here? He's literally taking anonymous Twitter accounts that could very well be fucking bots and saying, this represents the left. This represents Gen Z. This is like a fucking
I will say I don't think that that's as good of an example as the Mangione thing, because that was pretty much universally accepted by the left. I mean, if you went on Reddit after that shooting happened, holy fuck, dude. Redditors everywhere, they all were jerking themselves off about this kid. I mean, it was fucking wild. There are some people out there who think rich people bad. Palisades is rich area, so fuck them. I don't give a shit about them. But those people are the exception to the rule. I mean, most liberals, they think that the fires are a natural disaster and a tragedy.
Fox News boomer trick. Take the whatever you can find that is the most extreme and then pretend like this is what the Democrats and the liberals and the leftists stand for and this has to stop. Is that really the biggest problem we have in this country right now, Bill Maher?
I mean, again, the Palisades probably has a lot of liberals that live there. It's California. That's a solid blue state. You really don't hear people on the right saying, good, fuck them. I'm glad that their homes got burned down. I'm glad that 5,000 plus homes were burned down due to the fire. They're not saying that. They're saying that it's a tragedy. Now, they're critical of the management of the fire. That is true, but that's different. They're not sitting there basically scoffing at the fact that these people have lost everything that they've ever built in their life.
Likely bot accounts posting glee about some rich people's houses burning down. Is that really what you want to focus on with your fucking, million view HBO TV show the first week of a Republican trifecta presidency where they're taking away all sorts? I mean, they fucking got rid of basic civil rights protections. And this is what he's talking about.
Like what? What civil rights protections?
Has to find a way. Jiu-jitsu.
You hit your mic there, Kyle. What a fucking dork.
Jiu-jitsu, oh my God, the left is wrong about everything. Thank you, Bill, for your contribution.
Wait, what? What did he say? Jiu-jitsu?
Basic civil rights protections, and this is what he's talking about. Has to find a way. Jiu-jitsu.
I don't get it. Why is he saying jiu-jitsu and doing that? It's supposed to be like a magic trick, but who says jiu-jitsu when they're doing a magic trick? I don't even get the joke.
Jiu-jitsu, oh my God, the left is wrong about everything. Thank you, Bill.
I would have said alakazam or something like that, right? I mean, I don't know. There seems to be better things to say there that would make more sense.
For your contribution. He's nothing but a fucking wave rider. I cannot stand. I'm declaring war on all of the wave riders.
Ooh, a declaration of war from Kyle Kulinkski. It's ooh, I'm sure Bill Maher is trembling.
On all of the narrative humpers, on all the pick-me's. This is MAGA, pick me. I'll come to your side. Pick me, pick me. That's what this is. Desperately trying to maintain relevance.
Would you put Cenk Uygur in that camp, Kyle? Tell us.
By chasing where they think the country is. That's what this is. There's not an original bone in his body. There's not a single principle or conviction or ideological point or policy he will stand by and fight for. He will abandon it all to be the smug, smarmy little weasel who gets, oh, I'm edgy, bro. I'm so edgy. And that's why I'll spend all my time shitting on the people with no money and no power and no control in this government as Republicans destroy everything in fucking sight. I don't think we need to listen to any more of this. You get the point. Stephen A. Smith, who I like. Bill Maher, who I used to like. They're very indicative of groupthink. They're very indicative of follow the trends.
God damn, dude. The way that this guy projects and doesn't realize he's doing it, that shit's fucking wild.
They're very indicative of what people are perceiving as a total political and cultural win for MAGA, when it is certainly not a cultural victory. And even on the political front, he won by 1.4 percentage points in the popular vote. Biden won by 3 points more, millions and millions of votes more. But everybody's acting. They literally polled this. Everybody
Well, maybe he should have ran again then.
seems to think Trump's victory over Biden was way bigger than Biden's victory over Trump.
It's because nobody was expecting him to win the popular vote, dingus, or literally every swing state. It was because the polling data was showing the opposite. That's why.
So we're looking at a bunch of lemmings. We're looking at a bunch of sheep. These are not leaders. These are natural-born betas. And they're proving it now, day in and day out.
Beta.
All right, guys. That's the show. I love you all very much. Subscribe to the channel. That's below. We will not
Subscribe to mine instead. Don't subscribe to his.
talk ourselves to MAGA. We will not be betas. We'll be leaders. We'll tell the truth regardless of what the reaction is. That's the bottom line. So thank you to everybody who supports this show on Patreon.
Bro, like, what are you leading? Like, what are you leading exactly? Like the Slim Shady fan club? Anyway, whatever. You know, dude, this guy, he's hilarious to me because he just says the dumbest shit. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up.